What's up, guys? So today I'm going to teach you a little bit about surfing in CSGO. It's a lot easier than you might think, but you may be struggling currently. I feel you. I've been there before. Trust me, I know how that goes. Surfing really isn't that hard. It just takes a long time to get a feel for. If you already play CSGO a lot, you may be used to the movement mechanics, so it may not be that bad for you. But if you're someone who's new to CSGO in general, let alone, surfing, then yeah, it may be a little bit of a struggle for you. For me, personally, just to kind of go on a little personal anecdote here, I surf more than I play competitive, and I've always been one to just surf in CSGO. Like, for the longest time, I would play CSGO just to surf or just to b-hop. I wouldn't play CSGO for the actual competitive modes, which seems really weird to a lot of people, but that's just how I am. So I have a lot of experience surfing, probably more than most people, I would say. So in all of my time surfing, there's a couple things I've picked up from surfing. There's a lot of things I've learned and patterns I've noticed and things that I see other, beginner surfers doing that I was also doing. So today I kind of just want to go over basically the very fundamentals of surfing, how to surf, and some tips and tricks that I can tell you after, a year or two of experience of surfing so far. I also want to go over a couple of misconceptions and things that, not really misconceptions, but bad habits that people have to kind of stomp out that when you surf, just to make sure you're not doing these things that other people are doing. So, first of all, before we begin, I just want to let you guys know that I have a hand camera here, as you can see, so you can see my hand movements. I also have a keyboard keylogger up ahead that will kind of show you all of my keyboard presses. It will show you control space, WASD, all the things that you need to see for surfing. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start learning how to surf. So before we even get on the ramp, this map is actually about to reset, so we actually won't start surfing for just a minute. But anyway, before we even get on the ramp, we need to go over a couple fundamental things in movement. So whenever you're moving, whether you're b-hopping or surfing or whatever you're doing in CSGO, you always need to be holding A or D, and when you're holding A or D, you need to be holding it in the direction of your mouse movement. So if you're moving left, you need to be holding A. If you're moving right, you need to be holding D. It's very simple. You need to conquer that sync before you do anything in CSGO. You need to understand the sync. I would recommend starting off on some b-hop servers. So kind of just do some auto bunny hopping. Just something very, very simple. Something you don't even really have to work at, just to get the feel for the movement. Once you get that down, you've pretty much conquered the A and D sort of thing. So I'm going to let this kind of reload because it's restarting the server again. But anyway, you always want to be holding A or D, though. No matter what you're doing, you always want to be holding A or D. That's a rule of surfing and b-hopping. It's very crucial that you always hold A or D no matter what you're doing. I'm going to show you this in a little bit. We're going to spectate a couple people and see kind of what they're doing wrong, and I'm going to help you fully dissect what not to do. You'll probably notice a lot of these things that you are also doing yourself, and hopefully this will help you kind of be more self-aware and understand where you're going wrong and why you're just not getting it. I know surfing takes a lot of time and a lot of practice, and I don't expect any of you guys to be surf wizards by the end of this video. However, I am hoping that by the end of this, you can kind of understand where you're going wrong and kind of know how to fix it going forward, if that makes sense. So, that being said, let's go ahead and start surfing. So the first thing, like I said, you want to be holding against the ramps in most cases. When you're holding against a ramp, this guy is being annoying. When you're holding against a ramp, you only want to do it to maintain altitude. And I will show you that in our more advanced section of surfing. But generally speaking, though, you want to hold towards the ramp. You don't want to hold W. You only want to hold W when you're first starting out, just to move towards the ramp, obviously. But beyond that, you're not holding W anymore once you let off right here. No more W here. So, because I'm going to start on the right side of the ramp, I need to hold against it. So I need to be holding A on my keyboard to move left. This will keep me held against the ramp the whole time. In terms of my mouse, I want to look parallel with the ramp, so I always want to look in the direction that I'm moving, parallel beside the ramp. So for me, I'm going to do kind of a scooping motion, so if you can kind of follow my cursor here, I'm going to be moving down to the right almost immediately, and then straight down parallel with the ramp. So that's how I'm going to do it. So we're going to go A here, down, and then just kind of flow. Notice my keyboard strokes. Every time I move right, I'm holding D. Every time I move left, I'm holding A. Right there was a turn, and I did not hold against the ramp. I held away from the ramp, and that's because I'm turning, and we'll get into that in just a second. Generally speaking, though, you always want to be holding against the ramps to maintain your altitude. Notice when I'm surfing, I'm staying very low. I'm starting high if I have the opportunity, but I'm always staying low. When you stay low, you maintain your speed because you're not varying your speed that much. So I'm kind of sticking low to the ramps to gain as much speed value as I can. Every time you go down a ramp, you gain speed, even if it's a little bit of speed. And these little speed increments can help kind of change your speed values a lot in the long term. Every little bit helps. So that's the fundamentals of surfing in terms of just the very, very basics. Now, like I said, you want to start high if you have the opportunity. But let me show you what I mean by if you have the opportunity. So let's start on this first ramp. We're starting high because we're already high. But if you go here, notice right here, you're not high. You're starting low on the next ramp. So it would do me no good to try to go high here. Like, I don't need to try to flick up and start high every single time. You only want to do it if you're already above the next ramp. So check this out. So I'm going to go here, go low, stay low to maintain speed, stay low again, follow the flow of the ramp. I'm starting kind of mid, and then I'm going down again. So anytime you get the opportunity, you always want to start as high as you can without interrupting your flow, and then go down. This will maintain your speed, but I know it's really hard to do when you're first starting out because it's hard to just stay on the ramp, let alone, maintain that flow. But that's generally what you want to stick with. Now let's get to this turn because a lot of people have problems with this turn. When you're first starting out, you don't really understand surfing. You're probably going way slow. So let's see if I can just kind of simulate that. I'm just going to kill off a lot of my speed here. Okay, so you're probably going like this. Right? This is probably what you're doing. You don't want to do that. Like I said, you want to maintain speed as much as you can. Don't do these mindless flicks that I see people doing like this all the time when you don't need to. So, as much as I would love to just sit here and just kind of tell you things, it's easier for me to actually show you what people are doing wrong. So what better way to do it than to actually spectate real players in the server? So we're going to go ahead and spectate just a few people. We're going to spectate this guy Morph because he was watching me constantly, so I'm kind of getting back at him. He actually is pretty good. He looks like he's the second highest ranked player in the server, so we're going to skip ahead. Okay, so Crab, notice he plants himself on the ramp. This is a big thing I wanted to point out to you guys as well. Do not plant yourself on the ramp. You always want to be parallel with a ramp. You do not want to land against a ramp. Let me go ahead and show you that too. What do I mean by planting myself on a ramp? So there's that turn up ahead, right? So let me see if I can show you what I mean. Okay, so here's what I mean by planting myself on a ramp. I mean like trying to land against a ramp. You always want to land straight parallel to the ramp. So even if I am landing on a turn, I still want to be landing parallel to the ramp. Let me show you that. Let me show you guys that. So I'm going to kind of simulate a jump here. So even though I'm landing on a turn, I'm still landing parallel to the ramp. And I'm going to do that one more time for you guys. Notice those smooth transitions, you guys. You don't want to do this, right? That will kill your run. You always want to land parallel to a ramp. I like how that guy, by the way, that guy spectating me was like, oh, he's really good. And then I did that. And he was like, oh, okay. On to the next guy. I love that. That always annoys me about surfing. Okay, so let's check out a couple other people. So this guy, J Fox here, he's doing decently well. He's going parallel with the ramp like we've described before. He comes up on a turn. He holds D, which is really good. He's holding away from the ramp. And he gets this ramp glitch, as people call it. This is kind of hard to explain, but that glitch where he was just going straight and then he immediately stopped, that is technically because he was moving in the opposite direction of the button that he was pressing. It's very hard to explain, but it's not actually a glitch. It's just something you get a feel for. If you press a button in the opposite direction that you're moving, you will immediately stop. Because he was moving left against the ramp, and then he held D at an awkward angle, it immediately killed his run. So that's why that happened. So he's handling this pretty well. He's coming up against one of his big transitions here. He's not going to have enough speed. What did he do right there? Did you see that? He was holding away from the ramp, and then he immediately pressed in the opposite direction to just kind of flick himself up the ramp. You don't want to do that, guys. I'll show you what he did if I can kind of simulate it. I don't know if I can even recreate it, honestly. He was doing something like this, where he was like doing this, and then he just tried to do that. He was holding away from the ramp, and then he just held against the ramp, immediately jarring his movement because he did something like this. Do you see that? Don't do that. What he needed to have done is to have held towards the ramp parallel the entire time and then moved his mouse up. That would have given him the angular momentum that he would have needed to go across that. So that's one big thing I can show you guys. Like I said, this video will be kind of long, so I do apologize for you guys that are a little bit more impatient. But hopefully you can just kind of throw this up on another monitor while you're surfing and kind of just use it as a reference if you need to. So, we're going to look at this guy now. Pizu, I guess is his name. Seems to be going pretty well. Going somewhat slow, but not terrible. Notice he's really low with the ramps, which is really good. He's got this like 180-degree turn coming up here. We'll see how he handles that, because you have to hold away from the turn almost the whole time. And he does. He nails the turn. He goes straight. He kind of grazes against the ramp when he lands, so he killed off a lot of his speed here. This is a really hard transition to make. Most people can't make this accurately. He makes it okay, but he plants himself on the ramp like I tell you guys not to do, and that's what killed his entire speed. Even he knows it. He can tell what he did wrong. He's trying to like salvage his run now, but we both know it's not going to go anywhere. So that's what he did wrong. He planted himself against the ramp here. So we're going to go to another unranked person. We're going to go to Kyle Sonic here. He looks like he's pretty new to the server. He's not beaten this map at all yet, so. He starts low. He aims somewhat parallel. He flicks up way high, which he doesn't need to do, but maybe he just doesn't know the map very well yet. That's okay. He's still holding against the turn, and then he had to immediately stop his momentum, and that's what I mean. Don't hold against the turn. You want to hold away from the turn because you're moving your mouse right. So, like I said, even though the ramp is on your left when you make that right turn, even though the ramp is on your left and you're used to holding against the ramp, you want to hold away from the ramp because you're turning, because your mouse movement is going to the right. That immediately overrides holding against the ramp or towards the ramp. By the way, guys, there's also one other more advanced thing I wanted to show you guys too, and that is to do this little flick outward move every time you get to the end of a ramp. You don't want to do this too aggressively or it'll kind of jar your speed a lot, but this is just something for the more intermediate surfers, the people who kind of have it already down. So check this out. When I get to the end of the ramp, I'm going to actually hold away from the ramp and then back towards it again. Away and back. Away and back. Now, I'm kind of exaggerating this, but I do this very subtly. So see if you can catch it when I'm doing this. Well, it's being silly. Hold on. Okay, check this out. Why do you think I do that? There's actually a lot of reasons why, but one of the biggest reasons I would say is it's kind of just ingrained in my body at this point. There are valid reasons to do it, though. So let me show you that. When you guys are going up on an uphill slope, like this ramp right here, it's not that high, but it is an uphill slope. You want to hold away from the ramp if you don't need to maintain that altitude. So if your goal is to try to actually get higher in the air, then you'll want to hold towards the ramp. So you'll want to hold like up. That's okay to do that. But if your goal is to stay straight and you don't want to kind of surf that wave up, then you want to hold away from the ramp. There's also times, and I can't really show you this here because the ramps are so far apart, but when the ramps are closer together, you do want to hold away from the ramp at first, because if you try to hold straight against the ramp, it will just make you slam into the next ramp. And I'll try to find a map in the future that will help kind of demonstrate this. So, anyway, guys, that's kind of the basic fundamentals of surfing. I hope you guys have learned a little bit about what not to do when surfing. I'm just going to go over a quick recap of things real quick. So, like I said, always remember, hold parallel with the ramps. Hold against the ramp unless you're turning away from the ramp, in which case that overrides it. Remember to start high and stay low. Unless you're already low, then stay low to maintain your speed. Don't plant yourself on the ramps. Make sure that your mouse movements are really smooth, and make sure you're always holding A or D no matter what is happening. So that basically concludes this tutorial for you guys. I hope you guys have a great day, and thanks for watching today.